Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Focusing in on a little bit more in depth on the feeling or experience of being with a narcissist or a psychopath, and trying to bring some clarity and understanding that really impacts those others in the environment who are living with, dating, married to, or working with a narcissistic or psychopathic character disordered individual. And this stems from this person's inflated sense of self-importance. This is perhaps one of the most hallmark and significant aspects that ripples out to affect others in the environment around the narcissist or psychopathic individual. And that leads to, in essence and ultimately, a feeling of oppression, being oppressed, being pushed down, being cut down, being put down with insults, being put down with haughty body language, being put down with pathological lies, being put down with minimization of your values, your needs, your wants, that sort of callousness that is and that withholding behavior of your natural and normal narcissistic needs. For example, when you're sick and you become important, more important than usual, and seeing that they're not, they're not showing up, they're not giving you the goods, they're not, there to nurture and take care of you and respond appropriately or responsibly, that they lack the ability to respond in a sort of empathetic manner, nurturing manner, natural, loving manner. And again, remember, it's this lack of empathy. They just don't have that sort of feeling of humanity for people in general, and really particularly for those in their immediate environment. In fact, they get very much to the contrary. Oftentimes they get a severe lack of empathy. And this feeling of being oppressed, being put down, is very significant feeling. And oftentimes people tend to feel like it is their fault that they feel down. In other words, they truly feel that there's something wrong with them when they're in the environment with this oppressor, with this narcissist, or with their psychopath. They're always trying to apologize. They're constantly trying to make amends. They're constantly trying to do better, to live up to their really unrealistic perfectionist standards. I mean, you just can't be good enough. You can't do enough. You cannot be, faultless, in these people's eyes. You're always going to have some degree of fault, error, imperfection, which you're going to live by your imperfection with these people, and, not your strengths. So what is this saying? I can't think of it right now. But look on. It's part of a prayer, but I forgot it now. But in other words, they're always focusing in on the negative, always focusing on the negative with you, and they're always going to remind you that you have some sort of blemish. They're going to point out that you have a zit. They're going to point out, someone else's wrinkles. They're going to point out someone else's kids and how they don't take care of them. They're going to point out somebody else's, gift, and that it's not nice. The food that they made, as this and that and this, and that their cookies are better. I mean, it's just, it's very oppressive. And realize that oppress, the word oppress is a verb. So it's an action to oppress. So it's a very active sort of feeling and expression, or an emanating of value. And it means to burden with cruel or unjust impositions or restraints. It is subject to a burdensome or harsh exercise of authority or power. So restraints, meaning you're limiting somebody. You're not allowing them to live in their most least restrictive environment. So they're putting restrictions on people to keep a control. So when they're putting restriction on you, realize that this is what stunts people's growth. This is what keeps people small, keeps them separated from their dreams, and keeps them separated from living in abundance. It creates a very much of a a lack mentality within these people. And these people, meaning the others whom they're, the narcissist or psychopath is targeting. It keeps them in a state of fear. It keeps them in a very much an oppressed, lowered state. And so burdensome, meaning you constantly feel you are a burden to them, and you constantly feel like you're in their way, and that you have to carry their burden. In other words, there's always a burden, which life is not meant to be, lived as a burden. Yes, we all have trials, tribulations, things that we have to, challenges that we have to live through, but not on a perpetual daily basis. I mean, for them, there's always going to be a burden that they're emphasizing in their life. It's constantly more, more, more. There's never a state of, living in a sort of higher state where it's, a transcendent and, a sort of growth, of emotions. They're really, it's a very oppressive experience where they're constantly needing more, trying to always put people down. So, and this harsh exercise of authority or power, which means they're always having to remind you who's who, who's the boss, who's the best, who's the ringleader, who is the one with the talent. They're having to constantly remind you. And so they're, it's very interesting because really, you're the true success, oftentimes their results speak for themselves. They don't have to constantly remind you, I'm good here, or I'm the man there, or I'm the woman there. These people tend to have to constantly remind you that they are superior in some sort of way, and use this in a very harsh manner. And so realize that oppress means to weigh down, as sleep or weariness does. So, when you feel like fatigued, or like you almost have like a hangover after being with these people, you feel very oppressed by them. And realize that the word oppress comes from the archaic to press down against or crush. And it comes from the Middle English and the Middle French, beginning really in about the 1300s, from the Middle English oppression, the Middle French oppresseur, and which is a derivative of the Latin. It's a derivative of the Latin oppressius, which means to squeeze, suffocate. And so, it's this restriction that they're trying to place on your life. It's a structure that they're trying to put on your life, which is unnatural, which is not you. So realize that, when we talk about living from your authentic self, it's coming from within out. So, like educare, it's coming from the Latin, from education, educare, which means to bring out, not to press upon. So the oppression that you feel, it's almost as if someone is trying to put a cookie cutter on you, rather than you developing from the person that you are and being the person that you are. So when you feel like there's this people-pleasing sort of experience going on, it's because of this oppression. They're trying to put something on you, a structure, a grid, a contract, a blueprint on you, which is meant to serve them, and it's not, in your highest good or in your best interest. And so, when you really think about, like when you go and you go for a drive and you see like a beautiful natural garden, and you might just love like the beauty of maybe the untamed wilderness, or like the majesty of an old tree, and how strong it is and how rooted it is, and its strong branches, and that's the strength is emanating there. Think of that versus like a tree which is like chopped down into pressboard, and which is altered from its natural state. There's a certain integrity and wholeness that majestic tree, that 250-year-old tree has, that's standing, indelibly strong, versus a pressboard. And so it's very much, there's a weakness that people feel when they're being oppressed. It's they're being what's the word I'm looking for? They're being like not dematerialized, but the word will come to me in a moment. denatured. People tend to feel denatured around these people. Denatured meaning, separated from your true nature, which is, it's like genetically modified ingredients. It's not the real thing. It's like a hybrid, food, and that's not supposed to be very healthy for people. And so thus we get the word whole foods, like not the restaurant, the food store, Whole Foods, which means the food in and of themselves are whole. They're close to the sun and soil. They are, at their peak and optimal nutritive value. Likewise, people are the same way. When you're a whole person, you're coming from your true nutritive, design. You're as a person, and you're not meant to be lived as an oppressed state, which is like a press board model where you're denatured. It's a very different experience of strength versus weakness. So you always want to derive your personal decisions and living your life from that lifestyle of coming from strength versus the weakness that tends to be created in a narcissistic or psychopathic relationship, where your love becomes just merely about serving them and bowing down to their oppressive, harsh authority, and out of their burden, which you eventually have to shed that because the burden will become so great. You need to attend to that which is the true you, your true nature, and live by those standards versus their standards. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.